Thank you, Christian, and thank you, Nancy and Jody. We're delighted to be here for the closing weekend of the exhibition, No Bodies. So to start off, Ella, I was really struck walking through the galleries by kind of the overlaps between your work and many of the works in the exhibition. From working with found objects, which there are several examples, to analyzing, interrogating materials and their origin. So what I'll try to do today is kind of draw out some of those parallels. We'll see Ella's work juxtaposed with some of the works that you can then see in the gallery if you haven't already. And we're also gonna move out from kind of the intimate, the things that are close to our body, to thinking a little bit broader about the world more generally. So, Ella, here I juxtaposed one of your works from the project that we are going to discuss today on the left with that of Susan Clinard in the center, who Susan often works with textiles and found objects. And on the far end, you can see Jonathan Herrera Soto's work, and he used a kind of technique that he describes as violent. It's a printing technique that applies very high pressure, and he did that over garments. And he did it in order to replicate the way in which these clothing and the people who wear them are politicized. So with that, I think maybe to set us up, can you describe the project and how it was born, and maybe even more specifically, why did you choose textiles and clothing to interrogate those ideas?
Yes, absolutely. So this project is an art exhibition I made, and it's about the fast fashion industry and the impact it has on the environment and on social justice issues. So all the works in the exhibition are basically prints on different kind of materials, different kind of fabrics, vinyls, and a billboard. And all the images that I printed are sourced from my own clothing. I used X-ray machine and SEM machine and IRFU, and we'll talk more about it later. And so how it started was that 5.5 years ago, I moved to the US with my partner and my daughter, which was 1.5 years, for my master in fine art. And we arrived to a completely empty apartment with like two suitcases. And I had 2 weeks before the semester begins to kind of like organize everything, and we didn't have like nothing, from kitchenware to a carpet, a couch, beds, just like everything. And at that time I did have environmental awareness, and I bought few stuff in garage sales and in thrift stores, but like as a person in a new country, it was hard. And for the first time, I feel like I stepped into the consumer shoes here very fast, and I opened an Amazon account for the first time in my life.
Welcome to America.
Yes, happy to be here. And I just bought a bunch of stuff online. And when the stuff started to arrive at my house, I noticed two things immediately. The first thing I noticed was that almost everything I ordered was made of horrible materials, so synthetic materials, basically plastic and oil. And the other thing was that everything was made in the global south. And it just felt like there is like a red flag. It just didn't make sense, because I just arrived to one of the wealthier nations on earth, and I'm surrounding myself with stuff from the cheapest materials made in developing countries. And I don't know if we have artists in the room, but as an artist, I'm curious to know how things are being made and who made it, and I started watch a lot of like YouTubes about like how my carpets is being made, and it was all horrible, so it was very overwhelming. And then I was like, okay, Ella, you want to study, that's good, choose one area and focus in one thing, and study that. And then so I thought like, what is the basic, what is the first material I in touch with in the morning, what is the only material that I'm not gonna leave my house without, and that was my clothing. So
Was this the first time that you worked with textiles and clothing in your art?
yes, yeah, it was.
Can you talk a little bit, full disclosure that I know you from before, so I know a little bit about you. So can you talk a little bit about how your upbringing shaped your approach to art making, and even more specifically to this project?
Yes, so I grew up in a collective, in a communal community. So basically, it's a commune of 200 people. The lifestyle there is very radical. Everything is shared. You don't own your property. Even the house that we used to live in, like people don't own the house they live in. Once in few years, all the members of the community are moving out from their houses and switch, like they rotate their houses. And they do it also with their jobs. So let's say let's say this year you work as like the big manager that in charge of finance, but last year you work in the, I don't know, with the kids, and next year you're gonna work with the goats. So they switching their jobs also. And there is an art center in this like village. This colorful, crazy building is an art center that being built by the people of the community in collaboration for 15 years. It took them, and it's all made of environmental materials. And the structure itself also, because it's in the desert, so this tall tower gets the cool air and bring it to like all the there are like tunnels underneath this building, and it's cool all the buildings, so people won't need to use AC. And I think that first like centering art and collaboration as a central thing for this community just made art an integral part to who I am. And the other interesting anecdote about this place is that it defines itself as a school for the study of the self, of the human, through relationship with others, with the other, and with nature. And I think this is how I view the world. Like I'm always wearing those glasses where I have like one eye on the people around me and the other eye is on nature. And with studying my clothing, and then the fast fashion industry nowadays, it's ultra fast fashion industry, I was wearing those glasses, so I was drawn into studying the impact on people and the impact of the industry on the planet.
Yeah, so actually let's start with the impact on people. So when I saw your work for the first time, the first thing that came to mind is that these looks like ghosts of clothes. And it's almost like you were able, like a snapshot to kind of capture this ghost that then disappeared. And I was really delighted to find out later when we had a conversation about it that this is actually one of the more important threads in your work, that there is this ghost of the labor of the people who made these garments, these accessories. Sometimes in our world we call it shadow work, so work that is there but it's kind of unseen. I'm also I wanted to place your work with that of Rachel Bryn, which you see as you walk into the exhibition, very powerful work of art. And Rachel used thrifted garments that she bought by the pound in thrift stores, and that's in reference to kind of human-made disasters such as the very famous Shirtwaist factory fire in 1911, and then almost a century later, the Rana Plaza factory collapse. So I was hoping that you can talk about the process of creating this work and the way in which it relates to the contribution of clothing manufacturing to social inequality.
It's a good question.
No pressure.
First, yeah, I'm glad you noticed what you call the shadow works, I was thinking a lot about that, and I had 3 mentors working on this project. I had 3 amazing mentors. I had Park MacArthur, Mark Handelman, and Mindy Sue. And Mindy, which was one of my mentors, she told me about this book called Ghost Work. So ghost work, the term, it means that it's a work performed by a human, but believed to be by the customer to be performed by some kind of automatic process. And I was thinking a lot about that, because talking about my Amazon experience, that was kind of like that also. It was like Santa Claus is real and his elves are professional, and I touch my phone and like a day or two, a magic happens and a package arrived at the door. And I think I was shocked about that, like how we got so disconnected from.
And we take it for granted that we can push a button and something will appear or door a couple of days later.
Yeah. It makes me believe like there is no labor involved actually. There's some kind of.
So easy.
It's so easy, and that's the role of globalization and how we got like divorced from the process of making the stuff. And as a historian, that it wasn't like that. 60 years ago, right? You knew the people that making your clothes. And so what I've done, I recognized there is a huge problem within my clothing, but it was at the beginning of my study. It was kind of hard to get the information about the supply chain and like what's going on with the workers, what's the environmental impact, because they hide it. They have good reasons to hide it. 85% of the workers in this industry are women, and they are getting the lowest wages in the world, which is less than $3 a day. So they don't want us to think about that when I click on my phone and buy a t-shirt for $5. And I was looking for transparency, and I was thinking a lot about the lack of transparency in the industry. And it sounds a bit like, I don't know, but I took all my clothing to the radiology department in the University Hospital in Newark, and I scanned them on X-ray because I just wanted to like see the invisible. And then I printed them on different kind of fabrics. So good fabrics like organic cotton and silk and chiffon, and bad fabrics like synthetic polyester and banner and so on, to kind of reflect what there is. And just talking about the ghost work thing, something I didn't plan was, but was happening in the room was the AC was on, and it's kind of, if we can see the work, it kind of moved the fabrics slightly, and those little clips make sounds, and it was really like ghosty kind of thing. I didn't plan it, but everyone was just talking about that.
Was there something when you were x-raying these garments and accessory, was there something surprising that you found in that process that you were not expecting?
Yeah, I brought many stuff that was very thin. The X-ray couldn't like, get any information about that. And then I just took off my shoes because I understood that. Like I took off my belt, I took off my shoes, the things that was thicker. The truth is that it was during COVID. It was like in 2020. I was very pregnant and the technician didn't like me there at all. So everything was like happening very fast. Yeah.
So talk a little bit more about the process and what we're seeing here.
Yes.
Oh, and actually,
Yeah.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, in this work.
Yeah.
So this work, it's a bit hard to see.
We'll have more pictures of that.
Yeah. Well, basically after I scanned my clothing in X-ray, it wasn't enough for me, and I wanted to dive deeper into my clothing. So what I did, I cut it little pieces, little squares of every item I scanned on X-ray, and I received a grant that I could use for this project, and I used it to use this very fancy SEM machine that it basically some kind of a microscopic machine to scan the fibers of each garment. And in the diagram, what we're looking at is each row in the diagram is one garment. So let's say like my jeans from H&M, let's say, and then all the row is images of the fibers from the microscopic machine. And then the text over there is the name of the brand, the information that we have on the label, which is the price, how much it cost me, where is it made, and what is it made of. And I added few statistics that I gathered from researchers and books and studies, the things that are not visible for us as consumers and should be. And many of them I also left unknown because I couldn't reach the information, and it was kind of a way to, I don't know, to just reflect of the lack of transparency. And maybe, actually, before I left the house, I thought that maybe I won't see the slide there, and I printed too.
Yeah,
So
you have a picture of the fibers.
Right. So I'm gonna read two of the garments just to kind of locate us as an example of what's the text. So I'm gonna start with the Topshop one. Topshop purchased through ASOS for $37, 100% polyester, which is basically plastic, made in India. Amount of microfibers released in an average wash cycle is 700,000. Barrels of oil used to create polyester each year is 70 million. And I'm gonna read one more. I'm gonna read the H&M one. H&M purchased for $299, 100% acrylic, made in Bangladesh. Company owner, Stefan Persson. Richest person in Sweden, Stefan Persson. Stefan Persson net worth is $18.9 billion. That was right to 2021, so minor changes probably. We get the general idea. Minimum wage in Bangladesh is $94 per month. Average garment worker salary in Bangladesh is $147 per month, and living wage is $443 per month. So I just want to add that I just read a few days ago that H&M committed to rise their salaries of their workers. In 2013, they committed to make it live in equal to living wage in Bangladesh by 2019, and we are in 2025. Obviously, they didn't do it, and not only that is that in 2023 there was a huge organization of workers trying to protest about that, and they got arrested, fired, and so on. So
just to sort of like circle back to this idea of how the garments almost embody this inequality, right? How did it make you see did it make you see your clothes in a new way, your own private closet in a new way?
Yeah, absolutely. To be honest, the analysis of the fibers itself, like, I was hoping that the organic cotton one would look like all fluffy and like unicorns and rainbows, and the synthetic one will be like disgusting and like evil, but they pretty much look the same. But I do think of my clothing different, and I can't wear almost anything by those brands anymore, because I full with rage about them. If I get it as a present or I buy it on a thrift store, so maybe I have like a different relationship. I'm like some more compassion, but yeah, absolutely, it definitely changed my shopping habits and the way my relationship with my clothing. Yeah, it's even the small things like having a stain on a shirt and throw it immediately to the washing machine, and now maybe I'll like clean the stain in the sink and save energy in the washing machine. So I'll do stuff like that.
So your kind of fiber analysis really, I thought, had like a really interesting overlap with one of the other works in this exhibition, which are one of my favorites, Erica Lord's work, where she used data points from DNA sequences that she then translates into woven textiles. And I really love how both of your works really embody this kind of hidden data, like taking this, something that we cannot really see with our regular eyes, and kind of make it very visible and kind of central and integral to the work. And that kind of brings me to another really important part of your work, and you touched a little bit about that, how the human cost of cheap fashion is also very tightly linked to an environmental cost or impact. So talk about, kind of connect the fiber analysis and how you were able to kind of think about this environmental impact through your own experience of these garments and what you have found kind of x-raying and analyzing and pulling out this data.
Right. Yeah, you know what I think is very interesting, that when I was overwhelmed by feeling like all the items we use are what we talked about in the beginning, and I decided to focus only on fashion. I was like, let's focus, like let's narrow down for one area, and I thought I'm looking at clothing. I think what's interesting is that I found, and that's what about the environmental and the human cost, and is that fashion is actually connected to so many sub-industries like agriculture, because of the cotton, and the seeds company, and the water system. So all the microplastics that we have in the water from the microfibers released in the washing, and the dyeing, the colors, all the toxic, and as we talked already about the gender inequality and racial inequality, also with like living here, using all those materials that being made in developing countries, and I wasn't aware that it's like it touches all those issues. So it's all connected. I watched a movie that forever changed my life. It's a documentary called The True Cost. So when you're talking about the human cost of that, so I'm thinking about the true cost, and it goes with the supply, all the stops in the supply chains of making a shirt. And what is the true cost of buying a t-shirt in $5? It's not $5. It's
Someone else is paying for that.
Yeah, and also us, like wearing the toxic materials that absorbs to my skin. I'm breathing it. It's damaging my health. And yes, absolutely. Those people, let's say, for example, also when people donate, when we are donating our clothes, most of the times, eventually, we have so many clothes. Like there is enough clothes in the world for 3 generations. And what's happening is that most of those clothes we think we donate, they go to places.
Africa.
Yes, and most of them goes to Ghana. And they have so many clothes, they have nothing to do with all of those clothes. So they are the biggest second-hand market in the world today. And there was a huge fire there before the fire in LA also. And what's happening there, they're trying to like resell them in the second-hand market, but eventually they accumulate it to those big mountains in the landfills and release all the toxic materials, I don't know the word for it now, and the people that live there, they breathe it, they get all the diseases, talking about the work with the DNA from the show.
Yeah. And also we should say that because of this abundance of very cheap clothing, it's killing their own industry there, their own clothing industry that relies on knowledge that has been passed for generations, craft, and all of these people are also losing their jobs, and the country is losing its, this tradition, textile tradition and printing traditions that they had for generations.
Yeah, it's true. And I think also it's about the way we think. Like there is no away, like when you throw something away, where is that away? Like what does it mean? There is no away. And I think that we've been brainwashed by those companies to think of, with the globalization and using cheap labor and abusing the workers in the supply chain, we've been brainwashed to treat our clothing as almost as a one-time thing, like this cup, right? So people like won't wear the same dress to the same party with the same friends or some stuff like that.
This also kind of makes me think specifically in relation to the exhibition, that we talk about sort of like cheap labor and all these things that the fashion industry is contributing into, but at the same time there is something quite powerful about clothing, and the fact that all of these artists, and you included, are able to do something with clothing that you might not be able to do with other mediums, because it's worn so close to the body, because it's something that's is so intimate.
Yeah, I agree with that, but I think that because it's the first material we're in touch with, as we said, we're not gonna leave the house. It's the only thing that nobody here gonna leave the house without, right? We're not walking around naked in the street. So even if we don't think of like fashion, we are all wearing clothes even now. So I think we need to be with more respect for what you just said. Like, okay, so this is the basic. This is something that is so intimate. This is the first space that my body is engaged with and living. So what am I wearing? Who made it? What's material is that? And yeah, well, I think it's changed. My grandma used to have this fancy, nice silk suit that she used to wear all the time. Yeah. And she got like a hole in it or a stain, she would fix it. But nowadays, someone, I don't know, my daughter, I have like 10 pants of her with holes in the knees. My mom came to visit. I was like, oh, that's such a good opportunity, because I lost the skill of doing that because there is like no need, because it's so cheap and everything. I was like, Mom, please help me. I don't want to buy new. Just can you fix it? And we couldn't fix it because the material was so cheap that we tried to sew it and it kind of like tear apart. We took it to a tailor in our neighborhood and she didn't want to touch it. She told me, you need to buy a new one because it will cost you less. And I said, I don't care, I'm ready to pay much more. I want you to fix it. And she didn't expect that. So yeah, we need, I feel like, a change in our relationship with our clothing and not only shopping habits.
So when we started brainstorming about this conversation and how to structure it and what kind of things we can draw from your work, you said to me that you don't want to preach other people because this is more about your own personal experience and really learning about what's in your own closet. And it really did start from things that you have and the way you were thinking through these habits. So for those of us who are feeling a little bit helpless and kind of guilty maybe and thinking about the labels that we have right now on us, so is there kind of a message that maybe you have about like what individual people like on the individual level can do? Thank you, Ella.
Sorry.
I got excited.
Yes, absolutely. First, it's true. Like, I used my own clothing. Everything in the exhibition is my own clothing. My hands are not clean, and I'm not preaching anyone. And I was tempted to go to the landfill and save clothes from there and work with that, but I didn't want to because I'm like part of the problem, and I wanted to study my part in that. And to be honest, 10 years ago, when I started dating my husband, he used to look at all the labels before we were thinking to buy something. And it drove me nuts. I would like get pissed because I felt powerless, I felt like I knew, we all heard about sweatshops back in the 90s from Nike and stuff like that. And I felt like I didn't know what I know today, but I had a vague idea that the system is broken. But I felt like, okay, I can't fix that. And I thought that sustainability is for the rich, but I was wrong because the most sustainable item that you could have is the one you already have in your closet. And I think that there are many simple, small things that we can do to bring positive change. Really easy stuff to, and we have power. We have a lot of power, and we don't have to buy what they are selling us. And we can vote with our power for what we believe in, and we can shop in thrift stores and go to a swapping event, and just like we said, maybe not wash it so fast in the washing machine. Maybe if I have a hole, I can try to fix that. So, and I want to say another thing about, it's not only the shopping habits that we can change, it's our relationship with our clothing. So I said before, I feel like I've been woken up from brainwashed by those companies that I always need to buy something new. And who doesn't know this feeling when you open your closet and you're like, I've got nothing to wear. And it's not true, because you have tons of clothing in your closet. So what is that? Like, why is it happening? And I think it's all those slogans in movies and in just society that we've been brainwashed to consume, to over-consume. Like, oh, you had a bad day, treat yourself, go shopping, buy something nice, and the holidays, always big sales, and like shopping is, I'm gonna fix everything, and shopping is better than therapy, and it's all lies by those big brands and companies. So I want to say that breaking out of this cycle is liberating, and we have power, and it's a good feeling to live with integrity and to be in alignment with your values, and to do those small things for positive change, and to demand fair trade and regulations for the people working in the supply chain, the people living on this planet, and to protect the planet.
Thank you.
Yeah. I'm very passionate about that.
Obviously. So before I open it up for questions, actually, it's really cool how this is kind of coming full circle to the beginning, because on this slide I juxtaposed your work with that of Southern Oceans, where you can see in the exhibition, which really touches on this idea of nature and consumerism and how those two things are impacted by each other. And I wanted you to talk a little bit about your work that we're seeing on the right side. If you can talk a little bit about what we're seeing. It's also strikingly beautiful, and yeah, so can you talk a little bit about that? And also, as I'm talking, it really strikes me that the way you were brought up, and this idea of that you are part of nature, that you are not something that's outside of it, that it's, you have this special relationship with the way nature, you know, changes and is around you. So could you talk a little bit about that work?
Yeah, I was thinking in this work, first of all, the names of the works are slogans from t-shirts of fast fashion brands. So I think what I hate the most to see is like greenwashing and walkwashing also in those on those big brands of like Zara will sell a t-shirt saying like girls can do everything, and like all those like feminist slogans and stuff like that, but then it made on polyester in Bangladesh, when we all know made by women many times. Yes, many times forced labor, child labor involved, and the statistics about sexual harassment in those factories. So the names, the titles of the works, I took it from there, from those slogans of those like price of love and growth, really, and all of that. And I took a dress I have made of silk, and I scanned it, and I printed it back on silk. And I chose something with patterns of like nature and what is considered to be beautiful or what's considered to be sexy, like the tiger print, and trying to, I was thinking about the twisted relationship fashion has with nature and how it's abused it to destruction, and kind of like all those like flower prints and I'm sorry, I was going somewhere, but I
That's okay. This is, well, first of all, thank you so much for sharing this work and your process and how thoughtful this process was. And I really loved how you used all this technology in a very unexpected way to really make this process or these garments more transparent. I really love that. So I want to open it up because I'm sure people have questions. So I want to make sure we have some time to talk about, to answer people's questions. So don't be shy. Yeah.
Hi, I actually teach at FIT and teach a sustainability class there. I'm so curious, how did you even conceive of X-raying your clothes? You know, going into a lab from your studio.
Yeah, so you know what, I'm not sure how it happens. I got really obsessed with the idea, and I emailed like I don't know, 100 people. I think like every morning I just started the day with emailing people I found online, asking for a favor to have access to an X-ray machine. It was in 2020. It was very hard. Nobody wanted to bring in people into the hospital that they don't have COVID, and or that they might have COVID. And actually, I remember there was a patient in the other room that they just did an X-ray and they discovered they have COVID. So this is why they also rushed me out, and I was pregnant. And but then someone picked the email and answered, and this was a professor, a woman, and she was happy to help, and she connected me to those technicians. and I actually did one session before it was, because it was so rushed. I went back to my studio, I worked with the materials, and she helped me figure it out to come back to do another session, which was very exciting, and I'm so grateful for all the people that helped me. In art exhibition, I'm not sure about the one we have over here, but usually, generally speaking, there is not acknowledgement on the wall of the exhibition. Usually it's the sponsorship, like who paid for it, and the name of the artist. And it was very important for me to include all the name of the technicians, this woman, other people that helped me out, navigate that, and I wrote all the names of, like, even a person that just asked me a question in a talk like that and made me think of something I didn't think of before. I wrote the names. I don't know if it answered that question, but
Yeah, I mean, it answers the, all of the hidden stuff, and that just extends it.
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I wanted to refer to your last piece of work that was on the black. Can you elaborate what is that? Am I understanding that the colored area is fabric that you used a technical means to find it, or did you augment it with your own artistic work, or is that all based on some kind of electronic device that X-rayed it so it looks like that? Yeah. Yeah, I'm trying. It's hard to see it. I'm just.
Yeah.
It's purposely hard to see, right? I
No,
mean, it is a dark.
no, it's hard to see. It's
Okay.
because the light is.
Yeah. What
Uh,
does it? Which one is in the exhibit that's yours?
Oh, I don't exhibit.
No,
I
she
don't have
doesn't
any
have a-
works in
Yeah.
exhibition.
Could you describe that a little bit, because I cannot make it out.
Of course. You're not the only one. I think that every person that was in the show asked me, like, how did you do that? I can't understand. It looks like a painting. It looks strange. What am I looking at?
It looks beautiful. Now, this is a better picture. I'm seeing something different than before.
You're,
Yeah.
you're
Yeah.
sitting right by the light. You want to turn it off for a second? Is that okay?
Which
Christian?
one?
Yeah, I don't know. Try.
Oh, that
Here,
helps
you
too.
get a
So,
better-
yeah, could you describe that a little bit? It's stunning.
Is it a dress?
Yeah.
Thank you. So
It's beautiful.
actually, it's very simple. In this specific, the other one I used the X-ray, and
You can do it. It's
That's
fine.
a little too dark.
Oh,
okay.
Oh, I'm sorry.
and the fibers. It was the fancy. You can leave
Well,
it
see,
up.
they're doing it
In the-
yeah.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
That, I didn't realize it either. Yeah.
But actually, can we turn it off for just 1 second? So I'll just show one thing on the image, and then, okay, so very quickly, as we said, I used the X-ray machine, and the fancy, expensive SCM microscopic thing. And with this one, to be honest, it's very simple. I used a scanner, like an office scanner. And what I did with all of the works is that I tried to make the footprint of the operator of the machine be visible. So as you can see in the up area of the image, you can see that, like, the hands were shaking and there was a lot of errors, and all the scratches, it's the scratches of the glass of the scanner. In a better lighting, we will see a blurry hand in the background. So that was something that in all of the work, if we look closer, we will see, like, the hands that are operating the machines. This is, by the way, where I don't like using the term handmade, because everything is handmade. And going back to talking about the term ghost work and shadow work, and everything is handmade. We've been it's designed this way, so when someone will tell me factories, I will think of, like, fancy machines, but the truth is that there are people always, even if there are machines, there are people operating those machines. So in all of the works, if we'll pick each one of them separately and look deep, we'll see the visible, the hands that are operating those machines. You can turn back the light, and I'm so sorry for, thank you.
Do we have any other questions? Yes.
So you mentioned before about transparency, and it reminds me that there's a couple of types of transparency that the textile industry really doesn't want. They don't want you to know which individual factory made the garment that you are buying. They could, if they wanted to, they could put a barcode on it. They could say this came from a factory in Honduras, made by Juanita, and they could make it traceable. They don't want to do that because they don't want the accountability for their terrible labor practices. So as consumers, we can't get that information as individuals. Then also, we all think we can donate our clothes at the end of the life cycle, but many of them are not going to be reused by other people, and they're not going to be effectively recycled. They will turn into microplastics. So I think those two things about the industry shows this incredible level of irresponsibility on behalf of the people that operate it. And the final point is I just think it's very difficult as individual consumers to take this on, that once we've made a social decision that we're going to allow the use of polyester, we're going to have microplastics in the ocean and on the land, because that material is going to result in that outcome.
I just want to reply to your first point, that one of the issues of traceability is that a lot of these companies are subcontracting.
Yes.
And even their subcontractors are subbing, to other, and actually a lot of the garments that are manufactured in Bangladesh or in India, some people take home parts of the manufacturing process. I always tell people, if you see in fast fashion beading, never buy it, because it was made by children. Because you need small little hands, and it's usually something that will be handed out and people will take it home, and then there's no accountability, no transparency, you don't know who made it. That's just one point. And I think, what you say about individual accountability, I totally agree with. And I also think that if we really wanted to make this better, it can never be on the individual level. This has to be regulation. It has to be something that we decide on as a society, and that companies are being accountable for, because until they will be. And I actually think it's something even that needs to be even on like a much kind of even behind or before, which is the textile manufacturing, that and we always have this this issue that you say, okay, I'm only gonna buy organic cotton, but actually organic cotton needs a lot more water than polyester. So how do we balance those things? And I think until we have regulation and a way to sort of like figure it out on the textile and fiber level, we are not gonna be able to solve this. And unfortunately, I don't think fast fashion is going anywhere. Yeah. So we have to figure out a way that the fashion can be fully recyclable.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to also respond to that? Sorry, I took over.
Oh no, I no, please. I'll just add just 2 words. So I agree with you, but I also think that regulations won't happen if we won't demand it. So I think that it's always will like changes. It always needs to come from both sides. So as we said, and like we said, it's not all or nothing. As individuals, we do have power. We don't have power as others, but and just want to say, can you put the slide of the shoes work? Yeah. Regarding what you just said, I was doing this work, especially thinking about the supply chains and how they are like on the companies are themselves, like they can't follow their own supply chain. There was just a big hearing in England, I think, of Shane, and they were asking them like, where is the cotton from? Maybe some people watched it. Where is the cotton from? And they couldn't answer the simple question. And they're like the largest retail for ultra fast fashion today, and they don't know, because in China there are regions of organic cotton and cotton camps of forced labor. So they don't. So they can. And I was thinking a lot about that, and I was thinking about globalization and who gets to travel the world. I was thinking about the way you take your shoes off in airports, and like what gets to travel around the world and who doesn't. So like even like these shoes, when it said made in Bangladesh or made in Italy, it's never like one place. You know, they bring the cotton from China and they bring the plastic from somewhere else, and it's just they lost track of their supply chain, and it's all kind of in purpose. So
Also,
their
to add
hands
to
will
that,
stay clean. So yeah.
Even luxury brands like Prada, for example, the label might say made in Italy, but it's really assembled in Italy. So the parts, even the cutting of some of the patterns will be made somewhere else, maybe in China, maybe in Bangladesh, in Taiwan, in other places, and then it's shipped to Italy and assembled. And that allows them to put the made in Italy label.
Yeah, I would think the question of whether shoes specifically can be recycled is a very important question because they have so much more plastic than shoes now.
Rubber.
When we were growing up, and
Yeah.
it's really changed a lot.
Yeah, it's changed a lot. Yeah, because they invented the rubber in like the I think the late
Synthetic as rubber.
60s, the sneakers shoes. And
Yeah.
We have time for one more question.
Okay. Yeah.
I guess I hope, well, I came in a little late, so maybe I missed something. I'm trying to understand. You're approaching this as an artist, and we saw that beautiful garment that you created, which that black scarf, is that correct? That's your work?
She didn't create it, she scanned it. It was
That-
from her own closet, a garment from her own closet that she
And you
scanned.
scanned it,
Yes.
and as a result of scanning it, it came out like what we saw?
Yes.
yeah.
Okay, oh, that is beautiful. So you're an artist, and in 2020, that's when you started to do this technique. And then you became an activist, or you've always been interested in the chain with fashion. I'm just trying to get where your thinking is, where the art is, and because those images, those black images were beautiful, and I understand this. So I'm just trying to pull that together, and I'm sorry if you mentioned that's in the beginning. I think I was 5 minutes late, and I think I lost a lot, so excuse me.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Uh,
It's just complete. We did touch it
Oh,
on
we
it
did?
at the beginning, but
Oh,
we
I'm
can,
sorry.
that's okay, we can very quickly repeat it. Do you want to?
Yeah, very quickly. I think I always was activist. I didn't work with fashion until until around 2020. Trying to make it short. And we talked first. I grew up in this communal community that was centered in the environment and society as. I'm so sorry. I'm trying to
That's okay,
to
that's
make
Well,
it into
my-
one
the
sentence.
short of it is that Ella is an artist, and she created a part of her master thesis was this exhibition that we've shown works from drawn from her own closet, and through these processes of making these garments more transparent physically, but it made more transparent to her the kind of social and environmental impact.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great question.
Yep.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.